Welcome to Mike Graham's Political Punch-Up. This week, we've got two great guests. We've got JJ on my left, and on my right, we've got Sophie Corcoran. We're going to argue about Novak Djokovic, because not only was he chucked out of Australia because he wasn't vaccinated, but he now is pretty much unable to make a living. He can't play in America, he can't play in France, he can only play at Wimbledon. Was it right? Novak Djokovic can't make a living. That can't be fair, can it?
He can't make a living. Are you having a laugh? He's worth £160 million already. He's got endorsements around the world. He's still making cash now. He's the most talked about sportsman in the world. He's doing just fine. Australia were right to kick him out because he failed to meet their entry requirements. And actually, I don't think they went far enough. What they should have done is let him get all the way down to court, finish his warm-up, and then I want Border Patrol walking in, guns in hand, saying, Djokovic, get out of here. And they march him to the airport, and when it's filmed, get here, mate.
That would be such a good episode.
Do you want him to wear the hats with the corks on?
Yeah, the hats with the corks, drinking Castlemaine
Crocodile Dundee. Get a bit of that.
That's what they should have done. They should have made a real example of him. And I think they completely did the right thing.
The latest episode of Australian Border Force Fantasy.
Starring Novak Djokovic. Sophie, you can't go along with this, can you?
No, it's absolute load of nonsense, to be quite honestly. It's not just the Australian thing. It's France, all of the other countries. I don't think anybody, and that includes sports people, should lose their livelihoods if they haven't been vaccinated. Not one.
Really?
Yep.
Novak
it doesn't
Djokovic.
matter how much he's worth. It does not matter. That's his job. That's his livelihood. It's what he's trained for his entire life. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
and
poor man.
I'm a football player, and don't get me wrong, I'm not an elite athlete. I've only played in third tier, and we would train incredibly hard. So the fact that they did that and they put in some hours, because I know it's just unforgivable.
I'm sorry, if I want to go to America, I have to follow their entry requirements. There's certain things you have to be able to fulfill before you go over there, as lots of countries have the same kind of rules. So if you know that already, why bother going there when you know you don't fulfill?
Wasn't it the case that he was offered the chance to have an exemption, and he applied for the exemption, and they granted him an exemption? So he was under the impression that he wasn't doing anything wrong. He arrives in Australia only to discover that your crazed border force blokes had it in for him.
But the information he put in on the application wasn't completely honest. I think him and his team just thought, you know what, let's just try it. Let's try our luck. Worst thing happens, they say no. They'll never do that.
But do you really think it was his fault? I mean, it probably wasn't him that filled in the form. He's got
no,
teams,
there's a potential for him to be banned from Australia for, I think it's up to
3 years.
3 years.
Yeah.
That's just wrong. He's not a criminal. He's not a criminal. He's done nothing wrong. All he went there to do was play tennis. He didn't want to work there. He didn't want to emigrate there. He just wanted to play tennis.
That's not the argument. Yeah, he wanted to play tennis. Great. But what are the entry requirements? He didn't fulfill them. So that's it. He knows what the rules are.
But it's not morally right, is it?
But it wasn't just as simple as not being vaccinated, was it? Because you can go there as long as you've got an exemption. It was just that it turns out that his exemption wasn't an exemption.
Yeah.
So we don't really know why he was granted it in the first place. Because then he wouldn't have gone. If they'd said to him, look, we can't give you an exemption,
do me a favour.
then he wouldn't have turned up.
Like he lied earlier as well about not knowing he had COVID. And then when he found out he had COVID, he still went and was
I don't think
people.
I think that was the bit that he got wrong, right? Because he said that he had COVID when he clearly didn't. And I think that's where the problem lies. Because once everybody went... Because, I mean, how would you do that and then not expect every person in the media to go, oh, I wonder what he was doing that day. Yeah. Oh, look, he's having a chat with some kids. Oh, look, he's done an interview. I don't think he had COVID. He said that he had it in order to try and get around... But the principle of the argument we're making here, though, is it fair that he now can't play tennis in France, in America, in Australia? There's only one tournament left for him, and that's Wimbledon.
It makes no difference.
Not fair,
in the Australian Open, there is a number of them who have already tested positive for COVID. And there's an article that came out earlier today from one of the tennis players there, I can't remember his name, that said that they're not testing regularly. And if they did, that there would be even more of them that have tested positive for COVID. Yeah. So why have they got a right to spread COVID, but he hasn't? Right. Who gives the vaccinated the right to spread COVID, but not the unvaccinated?
There you go.
The rules are the rules, right?
Does it make them right?
Well, they seem to change, though, depending on what day of the week it is.
Only 3 players in the top 100 women and male tennis players in the world have not been vaccinated. Djokovic is one of them. If he knows what the rules are, follow the rules. Whether you agree with the rules or not.
Yeah, but then,
whether you agree with the rules or not, Mike, you have to adhere to them.
But the question is that fair? Are you able to stop people from playing the sport that they are involved with as a business, as their team, as it's the only thing that he does, and he's now being told he can't do it because he won't take a vaccination? That's a bit ridiculous.
He owns a few businesses. He's got other ways to make money.
Has
he not bought into some
80% share in a
chemical company that are trying to make a cure for COVID? But also, the Serbs are so unhappy.
He also donated paid £25,000, I think it was, to fight the Australian bushfires.
Yeah.
So 1 minute he's a
That-
hero,
that's-
next
oh,
minute
that's
he's
nice,
a
isn't
criminal.
it?
£25,000
Many thanks.
out of his 200 million that he has in the bank.
You're
I mean,
so
if he
bitter and
didn't,
twisted about
if
it.
he didn't give them that £25,000,
Serbia
That's
like
like,
to you.
it's like me giving them 20 quid.
Yeah.
It's the equivalent of me giving them 20
well,
pounds.
At least
well,
you're giving
it'd be
him
20
something,
quid
you
more
could
than
give
you've given
him
him so
nothing.
far, isn't it? But here's the thing.
All
the
they
point
gave him
about-
was a cool
the
case.
Serbians have kicked Rio Tinto Zinc out of Serbia, who were going to build a mining plant there to find lithium, which is all the stuff you use for electric car batteries. But because of Australia's performance against Novak Djokovic, the government of Serbia has kicked them out and said, we don't want you here.
They're petty. The government of Serbia
so
are
they're petty.
Australia
The government
are
of
even more
Serbia
petty.
I think you're an
are petty.
anti-Serbian.
They are so
Oh,
petty,
anti-Serbian.
Australia's government.
I mean, tell us, Sophie, make an argument for why Novak Djokovic should never be banned from anything just because he hasn't taken a medical intervention that he doesn't want.
It's the same argument that we'd make for NHS staff. It's the
NHS
same
staff, yes,
argument that
quite
we'd
right.
make for any person that has a livelihood
So you'd be
here.
firing all of them
It
as well,
is
would you?
not
Yeah.
right to discriminate against somebody
Amazing.
and forbid them from doing a career because they haven't had a medical procedure, and especially when that medical procedure doesn't make a blind bit of difference.
Well, that's your opinion rather than fact.
Well, I don't
Well,
think
I
it's
mean,
very likely. I mean,
you
Novak
can
Djokovic is
see
a very
them
fit
getting COVID,
individual.
it is a fact.
He's not likely to be somebody who would suffer immeasurably
No,
if
but
he did get it.
the
And
thing is, he is an icon for the journey and the lives of the hundreds of thousands of Australians that are living under that, tyrannical lifestyle.
Tyrannical lifestyle. Oh,
You
good
it is
grief.
tyrannical.
can't go to
Do you
school,
know?
can't go
Do
to
you
work.
know?
You throw around
What
tyrannical.
kind of world is
Living under
that?
Saddam Hussein is tyrannical. Living in Australia where you have to show
Well,
your
no.
vaccine passports
No,
going to Zara
it's not that
is
simple.
not tyrannical.
It's not that
it is.
simple
Good
because
grief.
because I know people in Australia who have family in the next territory over, like the next state. So Melbourne's in Victoria. If you want to go to New South Wales, they couldn't go. And they used to go to the border of New South Wales and Victoria and park their cars and walk out of the car and stand there talking to their relatives across a fence practically because they weren't allowed to travel. That's tyrannical to me.
That's just nonsense.
I think you like
That's like you not being able to go to West Ham.
He's empowering all of those people to stand up against what they have been through for the last couple of
And
years.
that's
as they
exactly
should
why
rightly
Australia
should.
didn't want
and
him
that's
there.
why they want to kick him out because they're fascists.
They kick him out because of his influence.
They are fascist.
His
Don't you
negative
think-
influence
They think
on
he's
society.
an icon of free
But
choice.
don't you also think that he was picked on because it was a political decision? Because there's a political fight going on in Australia at the moment because some of the libertarian politicians actually don't want all of these tyrannical restrictions, as you
They're
call them.
trying to grip to the
What
minimum
they
of power
want,
that they
all right,
have.
is to have an election process, and the Prime Minister basically decided to use Novak Djokovic because a lot of Australians supported him and said, yeah, you should kick him out because they've all had to put up with all sorts of terrible things. But the bottom line here, JJ, is that people have been forced to behave like savages and maniacs over this vaccine. Well, so what you're saying doesn't make any sense. You're telling me that you back sacking people from the NHS, even though the NHS is short of nurses and doctors because they're not vaccinated. That's mad, isn't it?
Unless they have the exemption. Yeah, unless there's a medical reason why they don't have it, yes, I think they should be sacked.
Okay.
Yeah, completely. And I tell you what, this debate reeks of corruption. You're supposed to be impartial.
I am impartial.
You're supposed to be impartial.
I am.
You're not impartial
anyone,
at all.
Listen, anyone will tell
You
you.
are
Imitating
not.
the BBC.
You are not impartial.
Anyone will tell you that this particular show, Mike Graham's Political Punch-Up,
do
is
me
as
a
impartial as you
favour.
can get.
It's
Listen,
a
it really
tribute
is.
to the BBC after their misery for the last week
You
of
have
scrapping
not
the
got to be
licence
Mystic
fee.
Meg to see where you stand on this situation.
Listen, you don't have to be vaccinated to be on this show. That's for sure. You don't get thrown out just because you're not vaccinated. And in fact, we don't even ask, okay? But you are going to hear a bell now because we need to find out what the mutual agreement might be and, of course, what the neutral judgment of mine will be. I don't know why everybody's laughing because this is, in fact, going to be very neutral. I've listened to both your arguments.
The most balanced show on
JJ,
TV.
yeah, it is the most balanced show on TV. JJ, frankly, is making some unbelievable sort of statements about how people shouldn't be allowed their own freedom just because they haven't had a vaccination.
shouldn't be
Sophie,
allowed.
of course,
He's been
standing
watching
up.
too much Nothing to Declare, I think.
He has. Sophie's standing up for freedom and standing up for freedom of choice, which I think is what we all stand for here at Talk Radio TV. So I'm going to say JJ's lost this one, I'm afraid.
What a
we'll
shock.
Have you back,
I
we'll
mean,
have you
you
back
walked-
for
you
another
walked in a
go-round.
loser, let's be
Maybe
real.
the next time we need you to give us your views on anything. But I'm going to give Sophie the win. So Sophie
I
won.
won Plank of the Week as well.
Well, you don't actually win that,
Well,
but,
I
but
got- I
thanks
got
for
the
pointing
plank.
that out.
I chose the
Plank
right
of the Week.
nominee.
Plank of the Week was not won by Sophie,
It
but she
was.
did nominate
Well,
the
not
winner.
me, I
Let's
didn't
put it
get
that
a
way.
plank, but, like,
Yeah, but
nominee.
she might win next week, Plank of the Week, if you carry on like that. But so she's won. So she's got one. You've got none. It's 1-0 to Sophie. That was the Political Punch-Up. We'll see you next time.